Chapter 9 of Magic and Flame. It took Éowyn a moment to process what she was seeing. Cages lined the walls, all kinds of creatures crammed inside of them. But looking closer, they were almost unrecognizable, disgustingly deformed. A chicken's head fused with the lower body of an iguana strutted in circles around its cage as it squawked uncontrollably. A deer sporting the legs of a wolf nodded back and forth in unsteady motions. Countless more of these ungodly abominations moved and cried out from various cages. A sickening smell of dried blood and burnt fur wafted from them. At the back of the hallway-like room stood two circular tanks made of thick glass. A wooden frame carved into with hundreds of glowing runes bound them together. Éowyn's jaw trembled. She could feel Gerald clenched tightly to her neck. His heart pounding against her scales communicated as if by Morse code of fear parallel to her own. What is all this? Éowyn screeched, taking a step back. My magnum opus, Carubia said, hands clasped to her chest. And it's almost ready. What? A long time ago, I was cursed by Arya for following Kanan. She gave me this disgusting feature of a head, Carubia spat. And it's been my pet project to find out how to turn myself back, since conventional magic, including that of your mother's, never worked. Carubia's eyes narrowed. Arya's evil magic has nothing to be trifled with, young one. Be wary of that. Éowyn looked back at Gerald. He gazed straight at Carubia, raising an eyebrow. Sometimes, what may seem like a curse may actually be a great gift. After all, is that not what led you to the creation of the city and all of its cool technology stuff? He gave a sly grin, though Éowyn could still sense his deep-set terror. Carubia's neck feathers ruffled in a huff. She grabbed Gerald by his shirt collar, wrestling him off of Éowyn's back with surprising strength for a woman of her stature. Listen here, child of Arya, she hissed through her long ebony beak. I wish to no longer hear any of your blasphemous lies. Watch your lying tongue. Carubia! Unhand him at once! Éowyn cried. The great witch briskly ran towards the end of the room, dragging a screaming Gerald all the way. Come, Éowyn! Let's get this over with! Huge, shadowy hands burst from the ground, taking Gerald by the wrists and freeing Carubia's hands. Éowyn tried to catch up, watching as Carubia opened the tank to the left and the shadow hand strapped Gerald down inside of it. A gag was put into his mouth, dampening the sound of his cries. Tongues of flame burst from his hands, but fizzled out as soon as they touched the air. What are you doing? Éowyn screamed. She shoved Carubia to the side. The witch gave a loud caw, wielding a small golden wand inlaid with fine amethysts. The shadow arms latched on to Éowyn, setting her gently into the other tank. Carubia regained her happy composure, brushing down raised feathers. She cleared her throat. I'm sorry I had to jump this on you, dearie, but the only way to transform you back into human is to use another human as a template for the conversion. You can't be serious! Tut. Listen, dearie. Carubia patted Éowyn on the nose. I am not nearly as strong a sorceress as your mother was. I cannot change you like she did. I will have to use the life of him in order to do it. Éowyn's breath quickened, her eyes widening in desperation. You can't do that! He doesn't deserve to die! He's helped me so much, saved my life on multiple occasions. He doesn't deserve... Princess Éowyn! Carubia screeched. That is your title, no? Is it not the duty of a subject of a kingdom to give their life for their princess? His sacrifice will turn you human, Éowyn. Then you can follow in your mother's footsteps as queen. You will save your people and lead them to victory over the accursed dragons that destroyed the land. Éowyn, this is only what is right. It is the duty of the queen to give her life protecting her people. That is what my mother did for me. We can't do this to Gerald. There must be another way. Éowyn's voice was growing strained. She glanced back and forth from Gerald's desperate face to that of the witch. Time seemed to slow as Carubia opened her beak again. She looked at Éowyn directly in the eyes, her tone lowering to indicate the severity of her next statement. Éowyn, this boy's mother was the one who killed your mother." Aelwyn froze. Cold, freezing fingers slinked through her veins and grabbed hold of her heart. She couldn't speak. "Didn't you ever wonder how he knew so much about transformation?" Carubia purred, stroking her bony fingers through Gerald's raven hair. Gerald shook his head vehemently, giving muffled screams at Aelwyn and trying to spit out the gag. Aelwyn looked at him with a face of stone. "His precious mommy is the Dragon Empress, the leader of all dragons and killer of the Queen. She commanded her son to transform into a human and lead you astray. What kind of human would fear visiting me, after all? Unless they had something like that to hide." Tears pricked at Gerald's eyes and his nostrils flared as he continued to shake his head, denying everything that spewed from Carubia's mouth. "Not only does he plan on guiding you to be a prisoner of war, but he wants you to eventually be sacrificed to Arya in order to make his mother even stronger." Aelwyn's mind was filled with a cold kind of rage. Her brain fogged with thoughts of betrayal and revenge. Whispers of her mother's voice drifted by. "Find Carubia. She will help you." "All right, dearie. Let's begin the procedure now. I know you like this boy, but this is necessary," Carubia said, stepping out of the tank. Aelwyn didn't say anything to stop her. The doors to the tank slammed shut. The tip-tap of Carubia's feet led her to a control panel, where she pressed a few buttons and used her wand to cast a few spells. The runes on the wooden bracers of the tanks glowed brightly in irregular fashions. Deep rumbles shook the room, and Aelwyn felt her feet lift from the ground as she was suspended in the air. Wafts of sparkling magic released from the runes, darting towards Gerald. He writhed in his bonds, calling for Aelwyn. She turned her head away from him. A spark of light caught her eye. A flaming phoenix sat in a small cage near her. It heated the bars red hot, melting them on the spot. Then it flew to the far corner of the room, hovering expectantly over a grisly sight previously shrouded in darkness. Aelwyn's heart leapt into her throat. In the corner illuminated by the phoenix were the carcasses of several mutilated red dragons. Some of them had the arms of a human, or missing wings, or human ears and eyes, or human legs. One had a half-formed human face and shortened neck. Tied to their wrists were large tags marked with "failed" in red ink. The phoenix darted out of the room. Carubia didn't seem to notice. Aelwyn floundered around in the air, whipping her head around in a panic. "Carubia! Stop it! Stop the spell!" "Sorry, dearie. We're getting this done right here and now. No need to worry." Carubia hummed a jaunty tune as she waved her wand and switched a few levers. A tingling feeling swept through Aelwyn's body. Her head throbbed, her limbs feeling like they were about to fall off. She slowly turned to look at Gerald. He was hardly moving now. Magical talons seemed to rip into him, tearing out bits and pieces of his life force, and then transferring it into her. His head was limply turned to the side, looking up at her with the last bits of his strength. Aelwyn's heart pounded. In his eyes, she saw herself. When she lay desperate and broken upon the castle floor, fearing for her life as her mother was killed before her, when she had no hope, a part of her said this was right. That's exactly what he should remind her of. It was the perfect comeuppance, the greatest revenge. And yet, Aelwyn thought of the failed experiments, the phoenix, and then Gerald, her only friend. He had always been there to help her. He'd never made any move to hurt her. He had always been kind, if a little distant. He couldn't be the son of the Empress, could he? This isn't right. Her heart throbbed. I can't do this. Her muscles tensed. I've got to get us out of here. Her brow lowered. A surge of strength coursed through her front legs. She slammed them into the glass separating her from Gerald, breaking it open. Her feet landed on the ground beside him, using razor-sharp claws to slash through the straps holding him down and taking the gag out of his mouth. For a split second, Gerald looked up at Aelwyn. The look of pure relief and joy in his face made her know within the deepest parts of herself that she had made the right choice. He weakly scrambled onto her back as Carubia looked on in shock. She gave a loud caw, gripping her wand and pointing it at the two. Aelwyn broke another hole in the tank, leaping out of it and rushing towards the door. Shadowy hands lashed out for her. She turned her head and blew searing white flames at them, disintegrating them.
"Aelwyn!"
the Great Witch screeched, using magic to slam and lock the huge door.
"Get back here!"
Gerald's hands sparked. His magic came back to him. He and Aelwyn, as if synchronized, cast blazing flames at the door. It burst off of its hinges, a booming crack sounding through the tower. Aelwyn swiftly made her way up the stairs, while the infuriated cause of the witch grew steadily closer from behind them. The two escapees flew from level to level, searching for a way out. Surprised engineers and baffled botanists hustled out of the way of the oncoming dragon. Her tail whipped against carnivorous plants and piles of magical gems. A security ward blared an alarm signal, causing automaton crossbows to eject from the ceiling and start firing. Gerald used many shields to protect them. Aelwyn decided the best course of action was to leave the way they came, and thus she made a beeline up the stairs. When they made it to the top floor, the giant platform was retracted into the ceiling. Aelwyn looked around for a switch, something to open it back up. "There!" Gerald said, pointing an outstretched finger towards a control panel embedded in the wall next to the workbench. The buttons were labeled with the same neat red scrawl as the tags on the dragons. Aelwyn had hurriedly pressed the one marked Platform Rise/Fall, and felt the ground rumble as the copper platform descended from the roof. Distorted barks echoed from the stairway behind them, followed by the pounding of many feet. Aelwyn stood by the platform's landing place, ears flat against her head as she waited impatiently for it to lower. Gerald grabbed his crossbow from his backpack and whipped his hand upward, a sheet of sheer ice shooting up from the ground, stealing the stairway door. 5 large bodies slammed against the other side of the ice. The razor teeth and golden eyes of massive black dogs with the legs of panthers shone through the frost. They scratched and smashed against the frozen wall, hairline fractures appearing on it, which Gerald quickly reinforced. Just as the platform got within climbing range, a purple blast of energy destroyed the ice, letting the ferocious dogs and the Great Witch come streaming in. Aelwyn leapt onto the platform, and Gerald fired his arrow at the button, activating it as well as breaking it. The platform rose upwards to the chagrin of the pursuers. The dogs leapt up on their panther legs, clawing the sides of the platform and hanging onto them as they attempted to climb up. A mix of dragonfire and crossbow bolts caused them to fall. Purple beams of energy shot towards them from the witch's wand. Aelwyn tried her best to dodge them, but was grazed in several areas of her legs, causing her to collapse. Gerald put up several small shields, blocking everything before the platform finally clicked into place on the roof, separating them from Carubia.
"Aelwyn!"
Carubia squawked, her voice almost totally muffled.
"Get back down here! Your mother is not going to be happy!"
Aelwyn blinked. What does she mean? She talks as if... She quickly brushed off the thought, pegging the unusual phrase as a misunderstanding due to the muffling of the roof. Aelwyn and Gerald stood on top of the tall ebony tower, gazing down at the bronze city far, far below. It was almost completely empty. The glowing light balls had all dimmed, giving the impression of night. The people had cleared off of the streets and into their homes, leaving only lit windows as proof of their existence. The edge of the dome loomed up in the distance, shrouded by mist. A thick fog rolled through the streets. It was as if the city had transformed into another. A slight wind whipped past Aelwyn's face as she looked down at the stretch below. Gerald patted her back with urgency. "I need you to spread your wings," he said between intervals of panting. "The only way down is to glide." Aelwyn whipped her head around. "I can't do that! I can scarcely move them! We just fall like a brick!" Gerald gently stretched out her wings as far as he could reach. "You can do it! Trust me! You're made to fly! All you have to do is keep them spread, and you'll glide just fine." He moved her wings around a bit more. "Find the feeling in them, and then harness it, just like with your tail." "But look! There are some tears in the membranes! I can't fly like this!" Gerald ripped off a few of the bandages, causing Aelwyn to make a small eep. The wings were fully healed. Wing membranes heal really fast, since they're so easy to tear compared to the rest of the body. The purple medicine helped too. Aelwyn adjusted her legs, which were still hurting from being grazed by the purple magic. "Looks like I don't have a choice," she gulped. The platform hummed with magical energy and heated up. From the center, it started to melt. Go, go, go! Gerald screamed, kicking Aelwyn's back with his good leg. Spurred on, Aelwyn quickly stumbled to the edge of the roof. Adrenaline pumping, she felt out her wings, and instinctively, for the first time, she spread them. 2 long, bony stretches of scales and skin majestically rose from her back, framing the glittering ruby dragon. Taking a deep breath, Aelwyn jumped.